Hi, fifth grade. This is Miss Harvey, and today we are going to do math review. Today is Monday, April 27th, and it is our first day back from April vacation. So as a reminder, here are the things you'll need in order to complete this video. You'll need to have your math review for Monday, April 27th open. You'll need scratch paper and a writing utensil to write down your answers and solve the problems. Go ahead and grab those things and come back to this video when you have them. If you have all of your materials ready to go, your next job is to answer the questions for math review independently, and then you're going to come back to the video to check your work. So work through all of the math review problems, make sure that you have answers ready to share, and come back when you're ready to check your work. Okay, so today we're going to be going over how to compare decimals, and that relates to the first couple of problems that you had in your packet. So to start, when you're comparing decimals, what strategy do we use in order to be able to organize our numbers? Right, we use what is called the stacking method in order to determine which numbers are smaller than or greater than the others. So when we are stacking our numbers, it's very important that we line up the place values of each of our numbers so that when we're comparing the place values, it's accurate. For example, if you're lining up numbers that all have a digit in the tens place, then you should make sure that all of the digits in the tens place are directly below each other. Take a look at my example. For the numbers in question A, I lined them up one underneath the next, and I lined them up by place value. So as you can see, I have all 5 of the numbers. All of the digits in the tens place are lined up. All of the digits in the ones place are lined up. The tenths place, hundredths place, and so on. So that when I compare the numbers, I'm comparing the accurate place values to each other instead of comparing different place values to each other, because that's not helpful. When we are comparing decimals, we always start at the largest place value and work our way to the right. And that helps us figure out how to order our numbers. So we needed to order our numbers from least to greatest. Here, I started in the tens place, and I noticed that one of the numbers has a 1 in the tens place. All of the other numbers have a 2 in the tens place. So I automatically know that that number is the smallest, and I can list it first. Then I can cross it out and work my way to the next numbers. So the rest of the numbers all have a 2 in the tens place. So they have the same value there. What should I do next? Right, I should move to the next biggest place value to the right, which would be the ones place. All of the numbers have a 3 in the ones place, so I can't tell anything again, and now I'll move to the tens place. In the tens place, there's a 1, 2, and then there are zeros. So I am going to start with the numbers that have zeros in the tens place. But they both have a 0 in the tens place. So to continue comparing them, I have to move to the next biggest place value, the hundredths place. One of these numbers has a 0 in the hundredths place, while the other has a 5. So I know that the number with the 0 in the hundredths place is smaller, and it's going to go next. Then the number that had the 5 in the hundredths place will go after, because it had a 0 in the tens place like the other one, but it was a little bit bigger because it had a 5 in the hundredths place, and 5 is greater than 1. So that number will go next in my list. Last, I have two numbers to compare. And we know that they have the same numbers in the tens and ones place. So we'll start at the tenths place. One number has a 2 while the other has a 1. So I know that the number with the 1 in the tenths place is smaller and it will go next. And last, the greatest number here is 23 and 21 hundredths because it has a 2 in the tenths place, sorry. It has a 2 in the tenths place compared to the other numbers which have 1 and 0 in the tenths place. So to compare decimals, you should always stack them by place value. And when you're comparing them, you start at the largest place value and work your way to the right. My final answer or my final list should have looked like this. Right now, I want you to go through your answers for B, C, and D. And I want you to determine whether or not you used the stacking strategy. If you didn't, go back and revise your work using the stacking strategy to make sure that your work is accurate. And then come back to the video to check your answers. So now that you've redone your work for parts B, C, and D, I want you to check your work against mine. The lists that are underlined show the correct order of the numbers from least to greatest. So you should be checking your work against those. If you're finding that you made mistakes in ordering your numbers, it's probably because you did not use the stacking strategy. So if you're finding mistakes, you should go back and redo your work using the stacking strategy so that you can be as accurate as possible. Pause the video here to do that now. The next problem said a package shaped like a cube has a width of 3 5/10 centimeters. Solve for the below. You needed to solve for the base area, the height, and the volume. Keywords here are that our package is shaped like a cube. We know that a cube has all equal sides. So because a cube has all equal sides, I know that my length, my width, and my height are going to be the same. So they all are going to have the dimensions of 3 5/10 centimeters. Using that information, I continued to solve. You should check your work against mine in order to see if you got the correct answer. If you're finding that you're having trouble with volume or multiplying decimals, you should check in with your teacher so that you can get a conference today. The next problem asked us to determine the area of a figure below. So we're going to talk more about area today. What is the formula for area? Right, the formula for area is length times width. Here, the length of our figure was 22 feet and the width was 19 inches. What did you notice about those two dimensions? You should have noticed that the two dimensions have different units. And because they have different units, that makes it impossible for us to figure out the area right away. First, we would need to do conversions. We need to choose whether or not we want both of our units to be in inches or in feet. For my work, I chose to have both of my dimensions in inches So I needed to change 22 feet to inches. I used a table and a number sentence to do this, as seen below. I know that 1 foot is 12 inches, so I was trying to figure out how many inches would 22 feet equal. To go from feet to inches, what operation and by how much do I need to do? Right. To go from feet to inches, I needed to multiply by 12. So I multiplied 22 times 12, and I got 264 inches. So now that my length and my width have the same unit, I can solve for my area. 264 inches times 19 inches. To solve, I used the standard algorithm for multiplication, and my final answer was 5,016 inches squared. The secret code for today's Math Review quiz is KNEE, K-N-E-E. The secret code for today's Math Review quiz is KNEE, K-N-E-E. So for this problem, we needed to know a couple of different things. We needed to note that the two units were different and that we can't find the area of a figure if it has two different units. Once we found a common unit, we could then use our formula length times width to solve for the area. Our last problem said, if you half the length of this rectangle, what would be the new area? Well, we know that our length was 22 feet or 264 inches. So in order to get half of that, we need to divide 264 by 2 to get 132 inches as our length. And then we go through the same process to find our area. Area equals length times width. So you would need to multiply 132 inches times 19 inches. After using the algorithm, your final answer should have been 2,508 inches squared. That's the end of Math Review for today. If you're finding that you need any more help on these questions before you take your exit ticket quiz, check in with your teacher and see if you can schedule a conference so that you'll be more prepared to take your quiz. Otherwise, you should now go ahead to Google Classroom to take your Math Review quiz for today.